You know, we...
Well, you can go ahead. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves? Go ahead. Tell who you are.
I'm Emily Strong.
Speak up.
And this is my sister Leila,
Okay.
whom I call Lala.
Well, tell us about yourself. Where are you from? Speak up.
We were born in Yorkshire, England.
Speak up.
That's big love.
Many years ago.
Many thousands of years ago, right?
Oh my word.
Well, where specifically were you born?
Pardon me?
Where specifically were you born?
We were born in Rothwell, a small town called
New York.
New York, okay.
New York.
What were your
Broadway,
parents'
New
names?
York.
Both of you. You can both talk. You can talk too, Leila. What were your parents' names?
Oh, my mother's maiden name was Jagger. Charlotte Jagger. Jagger.
Aunt Leila, what was your father's name?
Joe Hutchinson Smithson.
Okay. And where were they from? They lived in that same town all their lives, or do you know?
I don't remember Dad thing. Well, it was in England by all. He was born with very wealthy parents.
Okay.
And he lived with his grandma.
Okay.
And he studied to be a doctor. And he was very good. But when he got married, so many children came, and he had to leave his doctorate.
And what did he do then?
Then he he got a job in the union.
Okay. Doing what? What union? The
For
mine
the
union?
mines.
And he had to leave for overnight many times.
Okay.
And
What did he do for the mines? Did he just organize the unions, or?
Well,
well,
yes.
we don't know exactly what he did, but we know that he was in a official capacity.
Okay, he was an official with the mine.
My mother went with him many times when they had these meetings that lasted overnight.
Okay. Now, why did he come to America?
Because
Well, my
the unions then
Keep going.
made
Well,
it
he didn't
difficult,
believe
you
what the
see, because Dad opposed the
he
unions.
didn't believe what the unions were doing.
He did not believe. So after that, it was difficult for him to get the
Okay.
type of work he wanted.
So you came over.
And my mother's father was a timekeeper for the mines.
Okay. So that would be your grandmother was a timekeeper for the mines, then, right? Your grandfather.
Father?
Stepmother. Your maternal grandfather.
Yes, my
Right, that's what I meant to say.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What was his name? Do you remember?
You know,
I think
all
his
last evening I was kind of thinking, I
think it was still Joe Hutchinson.
No, not Mama's.
Well, it would be Jagger then.
Yes, but
It would be
I must
Jagger.
think of that name. I've heard it.
Well, it's not important. You
No.
came to America. How did you get here? Did you fly? Did you walk?
We
I
sailed on a ship called Cymric.
Cymric? And when
Cymric.
was that?
And
Do you know what year that was in?
It was about
Not exactly.
1905, Bob.
Right, so early 1900s.
Yes.
really,
And where did you land? Land in New York?
Ellis Island.
Ellis Island. What was Ellis Island like?
Well, we
It
were
was
too
sort of a
small.
madhouse, as it always has been, because so many thousands of people
Okay.
landed there.
Well,
But what I remember most vividly about sailing was the respect that the purser had for Mama, taking care of 7 children, and they were beautifully mannered, he said. And he was so kind to Mama. Remember, he used to bring us special food. The only thing was I was deathly ill. My brother Cecil was deathly ill. But our brother Alfred just ate everything inside. He really
So he had a good
liked
time
all
on
the
it.
food, and he was our elder brother.
Okay, what were the brothers and sisters' names? Starting with the oldest. Who was the
Well,
oldest?
when we
Oh,
were,
that's Amelia is the oldest.
Amelia's the oldest.
And
Who's
the
next?
next one, the one I'm telling about, who ate rather well. Everybody else's food. He was James Alfred.
And his name, and everyone called him Alfred.
That's right.
Okay.
But his wife always called him Jimmy, so we don't know where that started.
well, my mother brought 8 children, 7
No,
children. 7 children.
Okay.
Well, that's what I said. The purser was so
And,
impressed with.
When we were getting ready, about a week before we came here, I was going down the steps and my sister was pushed me a little bit like this. And down the steps I went, and it made my eyes look red.
Mm.
So when we got to go on the boat, they examined everybody, and they turned me aside. Well, Mama thought me being turned aside, so she went there and with her brood, and she said, "You can't keep her here." But they thought I had pink eyes.
Oh, right.
So then they put us up in a beautiful hotel, and we stayed there till the next boat, till the boat that we came on. But they were just wonderful to us. And in the
And the
boat,
purser was so kind.
Do you remember his name?
Well, we don't know, but I'm sure Mama must have
Written
been
it
in
down.
touch with him, you know, because
well, every child that was brought on the boat got 6 cents. That's English money. I don't know how much that is.
12 cents.
And they said
Approximately, yeah.
they said my mother was taking all the money off the boat with all her brood
Yeah.
when we went to be vaccinated.
Right.
And then when we got here to this country, my dad came first, and he got a job putting up those for the telephone company, the big poles.
Okay.
And that was something really special and then he earned a lot of money, and he sent the money back to my mother in England
Right.
so that she could have for the passage back to this country. And that's how my mother and all of us came.
Okay.
And
Mama's brother helped my dad, you know, get situated. And
so when we came to this country, my dad had already rented a beautiful apartment. It was a 2-flat. It was a 1 flat, and it had 7 rooms.
Wow.
4 bedrooms, living room, dining room, kitchen. And it was a big place
Yeah.
plenty of room for all of us, because in those days they used to have big rooms,
Right.
great big rooms. But it was just a happy life that we
Where
all
was
had.
that apartment? What town?
That was on
In
55th and Shields, and it was a beautiful neighborhood then,
Yeah.
because, you know, everything's changed so terrible. But that was one of the most exclusive places then. Beautiful.
Now let's get back to your brothers. After Alfred, who's the next oldest child?
Cecil,
Cecil.
Cecil, and then who?
then
What?
Emily,
Then you, Grandma.
and then myself,
Okay.
and then Bill,
Okay.
and my brother Willie was in a baby in arms.
Okay. Wait, we missed 2 then. We've
And
missed.
Ivy was born in this country.
And what about Aunt Millie?
Oh, she was
the
old-
elder.
She was older than either of the 2 boys.
She was
Yeah.
older, yeah.
She's the very oldest of the whole family?
Very
Yeah.
much.
Okay. Do you know what year she was born in, roughly?
Well,
Well, she's...
yeah, but I don't know what year, but she was 90 years old when she died not too long ago. And the Episcopal priest said he had been trying for years to find out how old she was. And she never would tell anybody because she was so full of life. And
Okay, so she
Very
was 90. Do you remember when
and
she
she
died?
died, but I'd have to look up
She
the little
died in-
card.
1971.
71.
70, are you
No, 79.
79? Okay.
And my sister Ivy died in 1980.
I got to look that up about
I
Millie
do
too
know.
and mark it somewhere.
I have
you
it
know.
in my
Yeah.
book.
Okay, what about the rest of them? Now Alfred and Cecil.
Well, they
Now
died.
Alfred,
I don't know just what
he
year.
used to In his very younger days, he worked for a neighbor of ours, a Mr. Varley, who owned a bookstore on Wabash Avenue in Chicago. And he started to work there. But in later years, he studied to be a stationery engineer. And that's what he was. But Cecil was a court reporter.
Okay.
For the Erie Railroad.
No, not a court reporter for the railroad. Then he was a court reporter, and then later on, he became connected with the railroad, and he was secretary for the union.
Oh, okay.
And until he died.
Okay. Let's see. Now, are you the only one who lived out of the state of Illinois, Leila? Or did others, the other children?
I've always lived in Chicago until until 1959. Then I moved to Florida.
No, but he said, "Are you the only one who lived?"
The other of the 7 children.
No, Alfred at one time lived in Florida.
Okay.
At Bradentown or something.
I've always lived
but Millie
in Chicago.
Millie was always never got weaned away from England. She loved England more than anything, and was always visiting there about every year.
Right. Yeah. I remember that. Okay. Now, when you were growing up, you lived in Chicago. How old would each of you have been when you came to this country?
I was about 5 years old.
You were about 5.
I was born in 1900, and I was about 5 years old.
Okay. And Grandma, you were? How old were you when you came to the country?
You must have been about 8 or 9.
I always wanted to be with my big sister. I never wanted to be with my little sister.
And I'm glad of that.
They were too little.
Yeah, tell me about that. Tell me about when you were growing up. Tell me about when you were growing up. What sorts of things did you do? What kind of games did you play?
Well, when I took elocution or drama lessons in England, and when we came here to this country, they couldn't understand me unless I changed my speech a little, you know. But then I belonged to
elocution. You took elocution lessons. And then she got a job in Bowman. She was private secretary to
Mr. Burton, the president.
Yeah.
So we were very fortunate, really, all of us.
Well, one thing, we lived a very happy life.
Well, that's good.
Every day of our life was a happy one. And we did things together, not separately. Like Mama, you had the big...
and we weren't permitted to play with other children when we first came, because they were bad, some of them.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. Let me give you the name.
We used to, Mama used
And they were Irish. Remember, they were Irish.
Well, but that was just one family. But everybody else was, you know, in that
Weren't they a
neighborhood.
bad family?
No, they just ran wild a little bit.
But we weren't, and there were so many of us that we didn't really need to have other children.
Mama used to have make our own rugs, 9 by 12 rugs, and she had them on a regular frame, and we'd all sit around there and make rugs, you know. We had the awls and everything. Beautiful designs, roses and all different things. And when you got out of bed, you'd step on a beautiful rug.
Well, and then I was thinking, one day, I'll tell this another time.
No, you got to tell it now.
No, I'm getting involved.
Well, that's okay. We need just to talk. Well, you can tell us the story about the gypsies.
You won't get involved.
No, I mean in knitting it all together.
What about the gypsies? You were telling me that story the other day.
Yes, but Leila thought that was a bit
I
silly.
know.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's a story.
No.
No, she said
And
it's
we
more
were much older
important
than
thing.
me, and I don't remember. I remember they used to say gypsy, gypsy, something, and they'd holler, and we were scared because we were only small.
Yeah.
But she was older than us, you know. So
And I didn't want to be little. I wanted to be big.
So what did you do when the gypsies came?
Oh, well, we had heard about it a bit in some locality near us. So when my mother and father had to go by carriage, they picked them up in a carriage and took them to another town because Dad was solicited by the union or something to do something. And so then when they were gone, a Mrs. Ward, a lovely lady, used to take care of us whenever Mom and Dad had to be away. And she said, "Stay close, love, because the gypsy may come." So we did. We were very careful, stayed in. But I got in there. But who was with me?
Where did you hide?
In the grandfather's clock. Great big high clock, 12-foot clock.
that was in our house.
And
So were there more than one person
and
in
so
the
when
clock?
they found me, I was all curled up like this with the, you know, that big metal
The pendulum.
pendulum that's with
Scaredy cat.
all mixed up.
Well, all I remember
So
was
I
we had a
remember
big
that.
fence, and they used to say on the other side of the fence was some gypsies used to go there. But I never saw
They
it.
never did come. We
I
never
never
did
saw
see
it.
But you
them.
thought they did.
But it was
Yeah.
just a rumor.
I never saw any.
And we were cautioned by Mrs. Ward, you know, stay right here, don't move. And
Okay.
so that was, but I remember that.
What other stories can you tell me about your lives?
Well-
Your early years. What was it like to grow up before there was television?
Oh, I remember the schools being so strict, and my brothers polishing their shoes at night. We all did before we went to bed, because if you were late or guilty of any other distraction, why you'd have to go to the headmaster, and you held out your hands like that, and he whacked them with a big cane.
Ooh, that sounds
I
pleasant.
didn't remember
Doesn't that
that.
sound awful? Oh, yes, Leila. Oh, yes.
I
With
remember
a big
that
cane.
my dad
But my
was very-
brothers, we always had our shoes shined so beautifully that they never had to be.
My dad used to shine all our shoes and leave them in a line.
Oh.
And they were just like new, but like brand new. And if they got dirty, I remember my brothers going like this with the
Oh,
to shine them
Oh,
on
on the
his
back of their
pants.
pants.
And the spit and polish, that's where they got that in the Army. They, the same way with the boots of the men in the Army. They would use a spit and polish. Sounds terrible, doesn't it?
Well-
And then they'd rub on their back and
Well, my mother was
Spit on their
a
shoes.
very good provider and a very good mother. And she could sew wonderful and cook. She could make things to cook out of practically nothing, and they would taste so good.
Oli, and do you remember when one day when we were all at home, all of us youngsters, and we were in the kitchen, Mama was making some food, and someone tapped on the door and went to the door, and it was this man, and he was called, ironically enough, Gypsy Smith, but he was an evangelist. And so he prayed a little bit, then he asked us all to pray. And I remember all of us, 7 youngsters,
I don't remember.
right on the kitchen floor, chairs, and Mama at the head, and we were all kneeling down like this for Gypsy Smith. And you know, then afterwards, Mama bought that picture, you know, that's hanging upstairs.
I don't remember
In the
that at
bedroom?
all. I was just too
Yeah.
What
young.
picture did she buy?
And I remember all praying, and we were crying, and we were praying, because I suppose he was telling us all, better behave. And
What picture was that?
you know, the one, they said it was Christ, being taken in the temple when he was 12 years old. And they...
Is that in this house?
It's right up at the top of the steps.
I
And the first
don't
picture
remember
that-
anything of that.
Yeah.
You'll have to show it to me sometime.
But,
But we have nothing to substantiate it, you see.
but we all did everything together, you know, having fun doing things
Right.
together, no matter what we did. And Mama had a washing machine that used to turn the handle and wash the clothes just beautiful, but you'd have to put the water in and drain it out, you know.
Right.
And that was at that time something exceptionally wonderful because, you know, it just came out and it was just absolutely good. We had it on the kitchen.
What else do I
But we, during the holidays and that, it was, we all got together, you know, we
Right.
made Christmas ornaments. Never bought Christmas ornaments. We'd make them ourselves and trim our Christmas trees, and it was just a wonderful life.
Yeah. Well, it sounds
And
good.
we always had so much to eat and so always kept spotlessly clean. And Mama, we used to take, from the oldest, she'd take up the dresses apart and make new ones, put a piece of newspaper in front of us, and pin it to make another one for the one for the
pattern.
But the big one, that was Emily, she always got the new things, see, because she was older than us. Then I was the next.
I'm younger,
And then
real
Bill,
older.
you know, Florence
People ask me,
And, but she
is
could
there a difference in the ages? Oh, my sister Leila's much
Oh, I
older
know.
than I am.
But we've all had such a happy life and a very close family.
Yes.
We've always had so much love for each
But
other.
not anymore. There's so many children. We don't know the little children who they are. Belle has 15 grandchildren and 15 great-grandchildren.
Wow.
So you know they have a baby every minute, practically.
Oh, and they're such wonderful children. And, well, they're not children, they're grown up, you know, married.
No.
Well,
Remember Belle said the other day she
but that's the grandchildren, but you know them.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But it's just, and she's got such a wonderful family. And we're all close together. We all loved each other, no matter where we lived. We always had love for each other. There was never any fighting, no bickering or anything. And that's why I'm having such a good time when I'm here with my sister Emily. As bad as she is.
She's scolding me all the time.
Yeah, you two are fighting over the bed to see
Well,
who can get what happened.
I know
No,
she
I was asleep. I couldn't figure out
She
why
was
I
dreaming.
asleep.
She
Yeah.
was dreaming, and she almost pushed me off the bed. You know, she gave me about this much room, and I'm curled there, and she just brought, and she couldn't get nothing on television and radio, and I think it upset her that she couldn't get something on the radio. And you just kept rolling my way.
So tell me about when you got married. And how old were you? Where did you meet your husband? And things like that. This is you, Aunt Leila, first. Then I'll ask
I
Grandma the
met
same
Norm,
question.
and I think we were in a crowd of people together visiting, and I met Norman at that time, and we got married.
How old were you?
Well, I think
She
I
was
was
quite young.
Yeah, I worked at the Illinois Central at that time, and I think I was about 22 years old.
Okay.
And I
And
had
did he
children.
work there as well? Is that how? Did you meet him through that job in some way? Just at a
Yeah,
social
just
gathering, a
with the
party?
crowd, yeah. And we went
But I
together
was
quite a
29
while.
when I was married.
And you met Grandpa how? How'd you meet Grandpa?
I met him at a dance too. Dance.
What dance was it at?
I don't know. I can't tell you. I do have it written down. Yeah, all that little.
And how old were you when you met Grandpa?
I'm telling you.
And you were 29 when you met him? Or when you married him?
28, probably 27.
When you met him?
Mm-hmm. And we were engaged for a year.
Okay.
And
Where were you married? What church were you married?
Episcopal Church in Chicago,
Okay.
St. Bartholomew's.
Was everybody at the
I
wedding?
belong to the Methodist Church.
Okay.
And
What is that?
That's Joji.
Oh.
She's working on dinner.
I'm trying to think of some other little episodes.
Well, you were, where did you take your honeymoon? Both of you.
Well, I went to the Ozarks
Okay.
and then circled around, you know, the Ozarks there, and came back by way of Dad's home in Girard.
Girard, Kansas.
In Girard, Kansas.
Was that the first time you met everyone?
When we got home there, I never knew this until later, but when we got to the farm, we were having dinner or something, dinner perhaps, and they told me later that each one of the girls got out a different window upstairs. And they were all trying to get a look at me.
Because they hadn't seen you yet.
To see what I looked like.
Now, they didn't make it to the wedding then, right? Cool.
Oh no, it was,
Very small wedding?
yeah, we didn't have any, we just had a dinner at home.
Okay.
And then we started on our honeymoon and we were gone a month. So I got a chance to visit with
I went to Niagara Falls.
Niagara Falls. Did you enjoy Niagara Falls?
Oh, I loved it. In fact, I've been there about 5 times since then.
Have you, lady?
Yes, I have one. We used to go there with the Illinois Central, you see. They used to go part way, you know, and I used to, I had a pass to go anywhere I wanted on the railroad.
Right. Now, did you work?
Oh, yeah.
Where did you work? You did work for the still. I may have gotten that earlier. Don't remember, but so you worked for the railroad.
Yeah. It used to be 12th Street, and then we all moved when they moved the offices to 63rd and Dorchester.
Right.
And we all went down there one Sunday morning.
There's been so many
carried a lot of
changes
things
though
on the railroad
in Chicago.
and carried a lot of bags and things. And we went back there and we got double time and had all our meals brought in there when we were moving. And in fact, it was like a picnic. We just had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But it was real good.
Well, not
And I worked there a long
exciting,
time.
not too exciting,
Oh, it's very exciting.
but it was interesting.
And I was married to my husband 54 years when he died.
Now, Aunt Leila, when did you first meet my grandpa? Grandma's husband, George. When did you first meet him? Remember that?
You mean George?
Yeah, when did you first meet him?
Oh, right after they got married.
So you met...
Oh, sure, George and him, sure.
So,
But
okay,
they
so you
did
didn't
that.
know him before the wedding?
No,
Oh, no.
Okay.
But they lived on the north side always, and we lived on the far south side, so
Right.
we didn't see each other like
That much, right.
like,
We were,
like Bill and
we
Willie
seemed
and
like
them.
we were separated always from the rest of them because they all lived on the south side, and as things came up, they...
Emily and George, the only
Never
one of the
did.
families that lived on the north side.
Okay. So now, Grandma, when you met Grandpa, you got married, and you had my dad. When was that?
You mean what year?
Yeah, I know, I'm just...
Don't ask me.
May 8th, 1928. Is that right?
Was it 28?
That's what he told me.
Yeah, well,
Does that ring a bell?
because I always get thinking between 27 and 28.
Where were you living then?
The Kimbach Shore Hotel.
Okay.
See, Em, with you living on the north side, you didn't have
No, I
the
never-
time as I had.
I wasn't as close to the
No,
family
no.
as because they were all living in the same area, you know.
Right.
And you know, when it was Christmas time,
Well, I used to get
all
together
of us
Christmas
girls
like that.
would go over to
surely.
Mama's, and
Pardon me now?
we'd all go over to Mama's, and
Oh, yes, we never...
And-
when you once break away from the family home,
oh yeah.
that's the end of
But there
the...
was an old English saying, and what they always did in England was to let the old deer go out the back, no, the front, and come in the back, and that brought us good luck. So all of us girls used to grab my dad when it was at midnight, and some would take his arms and some would take his legs, and we carried him all the way around. And he used to be squirming and kicking and everything, and then we bring him in the back door and we say, now, Merry Christmas, or, you know.
Happy New Year, or whatever.
Do you know who did that? Douglas and
Dave Lutzer.
Dave Lutzer.
We used to do the same thing. We had to kick out the old year and bring in the new.
Yeah, I remember him just kicking like mad.
And we're all married, you know, and then Dad used to say, well, we'll have to have a little drink, all of us, for the New Year. And he made wine, dandelion wine. And Mom always said he spiked it because it was always so good. So he'd give us all of us girls a little glass of wine like that.
But nobody liked it.
Everybody loved it. Oh, and that's why Mama said he spiked it, and that's why everybody likes it.
Yeah.
Oh, I
really
thought that
good.
nobody liked it.
Yes, everybody loved it because it was delicious.
And Mama, of course, was from a teetotaler family always, and never a strict teetotaler.
Now, how did you wind up moving to Elmhurst, Grandma? Let's get all the family history here.
We were looking.
What you can tell us about Grandpa's job? I mean, what was he doing then when you
He
first?
was working for the Challenge Company, and they erected sprinkler tanks. Isn't that the way you describe it?
Water tanks, you mean?
And Alan Larson worked there also. That's how we got acquainted with Alan and Ed.
Oh, I was wondering that. Okay, and then what prompted you to move out to Elmhurst?
Well, Mrs. Youngberg, the real estate lady, was looking for a house for us to buy.
Right.
And she just couldn't find anything that was suitable for what we wanted. I don't know. But then one day we got a call from her, and she was the real estate person who had built her house on Mitchell there in Elmhurst. You know that you've seen so many times. And she called and she said she had decided to move to Belvedere, and instead of buying a home, would be interested in renting her home on some sort of special basis.
Okay.
So that's how we came.
So now you rented the house on Mitchell.
So she moved to Belvedere, and we moved there we lived there for many years. Doug started school, you know.
That's my dad, Don.
Started school, and then he belonged to the drama club at York,
and then you wound up moving here when?
Well, Dad started to build this house.
Right. He built the house, right?
Yes. In what year? I can't remember.
Give within like 10 years, with the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s?
When did he do it? You see, you have to...
I'm just curious. I haven't the slightest
must be
idea.
about 40 years ago.
I imagine it was late 40s or 50s, but that's just a guess.
I think it was 51.
Okay, early 50s?
That sounds...
Okay. Because I have seen pictures of this house with 1950s
but
cars.
But no, it will be
but that's it's irrelevant. We'll figure it out later.
Down there, but not spontaneously. You
sure.
Recollect all those.
Okay. And then my dad went off, and then what did he do after he graduated from high school?
I used to build those water tanks.
He started to...
Big water tanks.
Oh, Grandpa did, yeah?
Yeah.
Grandpa built water tanks. What about my dad? What did he do after he went to high school?
Well, he went into the service.
Went in the Marine Corps then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then went to school? Or did he go to college before he went to the Marine Corps?
Yes, he did. That's how he got his.
So he did his undergraduate work and then went to the Marine Corps, right? Is this correct? Because I don't know.
Yes, and then he was working for his doctorate. Well, I think at first he was teaching. Well, he had a series of things. First he was a teacher, then a principal, and et cetera, up the ladder. I got to think about it. You just can't.
That's all right. If you don't,
Think of
you don't
I
know.
think
we'll
you're
just
doing
go back to it.
wonderful,
I
honey.
think you've given me a lot of information I don't know.
Yeah.
So what was my dad like as a kid? Was he a rotten little kid?
No,
He was always a wonderful
he was a
person.
one, really. He
Just
was,
like his son.
Well, of course.
everyone he really was. And,
What kinds of things did he like to do?
well, he played the trombone. He belonged to the drama club. He was always first and second, all through the years
In school, then?
in high school.
So he was real good academically.
Sure was.
Top-notch academically. Okay.
Well, I wouldn't say he was top-notch academically. But he was,
He was pretty brilliant.
and then he belonged to the Bible church, and,
What was he like as a baby? Did he cry a lot?
oh,
He
no.
was a good baby,
And
huh?
he was born when he weighed 8 3/4 pounds when he was born,
Okay.
so he had a good start.
Remember whether he was like born in the afternoon or evening, or was he one of those middle of the night babies, or what?
Well, I had something wrong. I think part of the water broke or something like that. And I had to go to the doctor said, go to the hospital, take her to the hospital right away. And they told me that I would be back.
Okay, let's, the water had just partially broke or something, you
Yeah,
said.
And the doctor said, take her to the hospital immediately.
Okay.
So when I got there, the intern said I would be back to go home then, and I would be back in 3 weeks. Well, it took about a day and a half or 2 days or something,
Yeah.
and I was back. So I
So it
never
was
had
an easy
to
birth.
wait the 3 weeks.
An easy birth then.
Oh, very.
All right. Do you remember what time it was? Was it, the middle of the night when he was born?
And that was when the water did break, really. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, and I think we went to the hospital right away. And I think Donald was born about 9 o'clock. It was so simple.
So it wasn't a real awkward time.
But when I went to the hospital first time and they said I'd be back in 3 weeks, Mama came to the hospital and she said, I never saw anybody who was going to have a baby who would act like this, be sitting around and not having any pain. And I guess she had been accustomed to watching many other people who
Well, she had 7 kids.
who had
She was pretty good at it by then, I
Yeah,
would
Mother
imagine.
too. She used to be helper sisters as a midwife
And
in England.
but that
Okay.
was
When they had
so I guess I had a marvelous time, and Donald was a real healthy baby.
Okay. Now,
So
he
that's
met...
all, isn't it?
Yeah, well, when he grew up, they met my mom at some point, I imagine.
Yes, he did.
Where did you meet
Well,
her?
all through high school, he went through a young lady, a darling girl, Carol Berry, and her father was a teacher at school. And they all liked Donald very much. And so it was a real close relationship. Then when he went to college, the minute he met Phyllis, I guess,
What
things
school did he go
changed.
to?
And when he came home, he didn't want to go see Carol, and I was so sorry for Carol because I liked Carol so much. And she was so proud when everyone told her, you and Donald look exactly alike. You couldn't have paid her a higher compliment. And that's all, isn't it?
No, more. We need to know. Where did he go to school?
Who?
My dad. Where did he meet my mom?
In Illinois State he went, and then he went into the service.
Right. The Marine Corps.
Marine Corps.
Right. You know, he was there for a long time or a short time, or?
No, I don't think. Oh, a year or two, maybe.
Okay, so he was there for a reasonably short time, a few years. And then what?
Then he worked on his doctorate.
What about his master's?
Well,
or did he
must
just do
have
his
had his master's before that.
So you think he got his master's before he went to the service?
Before he went to the service?
You think so?
Oh,
or?
no.
Oh, so he got it, probably just went straight through.
And
master's.
he taught at school, too, before he...
So he taught for a few years then, too.
Pardon me?
Then he taught for a few years before he went back for his doctorate.
Well, I think he was doing it simultaneously.
Well, taught while he was getting his doctorate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then he did his doctorate down at Southern Illinois.
Yes, he had a wonderful professor helping him who gave Donald so much help.
And that would have been early 60s, probably 62 or 3 maybe.
I can't tell.
61. I'm just trying to figure this out. And then I was born. Right? Right? I was born at some point then.
Oh,
after
64.
64, yes. Do you remember whether I was born in the middle of the night or in the day? When did you find out about it?
We were in Florida.
You were in Florida.
And your mom and dad called us.
Okay, did they call you in the day or not?
Told us that you were expecting.
Oh, well, okay. So this is when they just found out you were in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And then, how did you find out I was born? Were you at home or you were at the hospital?
I was at home, and your dad called.
Was it the middle of the night or during the day? Or?
No, it seems to me it was in the afternoon or something.
Afternoon.
But your dad has all that information.
Right, well, I just want to get your side of it.
Oh.
And then you had this brat to deal with for a few years there, and here I am. So what other stories can you tell me about your lives? Either one of you. You can talk to it, Leila.
Well, that's about all, Donald.
We need more stories.
What sort of stories?
Any kinds of stories, amusing anecdotes.
At what point in our
Any
life?
points in your life. How did you feel when you first saw television?
Oh, my.
When did you first see one?
Darman used to make radios, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, but just about everybody had what did you call those radios?
Crystal
That you
sets.
made crystal sets. They
But
had
nobody
crystal
ever,
sets.
Emily, that was a lot of money in those days to make those. So, and a lot
Well,
of
I
people
know
didn't-
we had them at our house, and I wouldn't know a thing about radio.
Well, George
I
was
mean,
pretty good at making things. But we had a regular
but
room
this
that
was
he and my
before
husband used
that.
to
That
make
was
them.
before that.
Well, what about television? When did you first see television?
That was quite a time after the radio.
Yeah. How did you feel? Were you amazed by it?
Well, sure, it was something absolutely wonderful.
When did you first get a television?
Oh,
Yeah, I don't
Douglas,
remember.
you're asking us technical
You know, it
questions.
just seems like we've had television practically all our life. Well, I think I must have been about,
Well, I said the other day, 1926, and you both laughed.
No, it couldn't have been in 26.
no, it was a little later than that.
I mean the radio.
Well, radio, it could have been 1926. But television didn't come
Television.
about
Oh, I don't
much
know.
I
later.
think television
I
came out
don't
about,
even remember when it
Well,
started.
I think
came
it was
out
about
when-
1930, I think,
Oh, it can't. It
or
was
29.
people began to have them, I think, in the 50s. But televisions. But
I think about 1929 or 1930.
so that's when you think you got them. Your first one,
Yeah,
maybe?
that's what first when the television
I
came out,
don't
I
even
believe.
remember. I could tell you.
Okay. Well, it doesn't really matter.
So,
What can you tell me about Grandpa? You can tell me about things that I don't know about Grandpa because, like, where was he born? I know where he was born. You can tell me again.
He was born in England.
Grandpa? My grandpa?
Oh, he was born in
What does he
Kansas.
mean? Oh, George.
Yes, your husband.
Oh, yeah.
He was born in Kansas.
In Girard.
Yeah, Girard, Kansas.
Why is Girard, Kansas called Girard?
Why did
His grandfather founded it, didn't he?
his
Charles.
grandfather founded the town of Girard?
Do you know why he called it Girard? Why didn't he call it Strongville?
We thought it was, I think they said at one time they thought it was something from...
Was Girard named after Girard, Pennsylvania, I believe?
Yeah, something like
I think my
that.
father told me that one time.
And he was a very brilliant man.
He was a doctor, isn't that correct?
Yeah, and he was a doctor, an MD, and then a professor in the college, you know, and very nice man.
Now, when did he leave Girard? How old was Grandpa when he left Girard? Do you know? Roughly. You know, these just have to be rough
Well,
approximations.
they built another house other than on the farm. They had another house, a big house. And something wrong?
No, I'm just checking.
Oh. And I think Dad lived mostly in that big house they had uptown. But then the grandparents wanted a boy to have around. So they wanted their grandson, you know, and Donald, or George, spent a great deal of time there. And then Donald, or George, was always a student. His brother didn't care a thing about books or anything. But George was always a student. So he had someone to guide him, you know, his grandfather who had such a wonderful, productive life, you know, that he stayed there a great deal.
So now...
He not only helped on the farm, then he had a chance to do his academic work and study.
So now, Grandpa, at some point, had to leave Girard and come to Chicago so he could meet you.
Left, I think he was about 18. I remember Nell saying, I think he was 17 or 18, I think, when he left the farm.
Then he came to Chicago and met you, I
He
guess.
came to Chicago and
Had he been living here for a long time?
and he couldn't get away from me. So,
You got your claws into him, huh?
yeah.
Well, we got our whole family then. I remember we all moved to 76th and Stewart.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that part of my life.
And we grew up there.
And that's where Dad courted me when we lived in that big stone place. I've got a picture in front of that of you and I, Leila.
Oh, must have been beautiful.
Well, I look great.
But and then we lived there and grew up there, and that's where I used to.
And
Then when I moved
to
in,
go,
when I
and
went-
that's nearby St. Bartholomew's Church. Because I used to sing in the choir there. You wouldn't know it now, but my voice, really, I've often heard my mother say, because she used to sing very nicely. And then the time came when she couldn't sing anymore, and she'd say, my voice, I don't recognize it. I can't
My
sing
mother was
anymore.
a beautiful woman
I can't sing anymore.
and worked very hard all her life, taking good care of her family. Well, that's where I lived when
She had very pretty
when I met
legs.
my husband Norman.
My
and he
mother had
courted
very
me there.
pretty legs. And whenever she went out at night, Dad and I would say, there's nothing. Don't pay any attention to any wild man. He'd wait up for her until she got home. but she had very beautiful legs. And none of us girls have nice legs.
No, I think we all have pretty good legs when we were young.
don't.
I did, I know.
No, I never had nice.
Well, it's news to you, huh, Aunt Leila?
Yeah, everybody said that. Then after we were all grown up, then Mama and Dad, they moved to 71st and Wabash in a bungalow, a lovely bungalow. They stayed there until Dad died. And
Well, when did they die? When did your dad die?
We'd have to get out those little cards that give us the address.
Do you have a rough idea? Was it in the 20s, 30s,
No, he
40s,
left
50s?
because he was about 74 when he died. Or 74 about.
So, okay. What about her? She died a lot later, or?
Later. About 6 years later or
Okay.
something. We'd have to really look that up because
Okay, that's something I want to
things get
know.
away from you because the old things begin to fade away a little bit and the new things.
yeah, my
Replace-
dad, he loved flowers and gardening. And he had beautiful flowers, beautiful yards. It was just beautiful.
And a characteristic from his old days in the militia and at school about having your boots polished and shined always, never neglect them at all. And this was part of it. His thinking when he used to garden at home when we were there and we were growing up. He would never go out and garden even with dirty shoes. And this, Mama could never understand it.
Right.
He still had to have his shoes shined. And you know, in this country, men, I think, there were a few years there where men used to have their shoes polished.
Well, they always
Better,
had shoes
but
shiny,
never.
yeah.
And there were many years when they were
Well, they used
so
to have regular
poorly.
shoe shining stands, you know, where you
Yes, but they
Yeah.
took advantage of it. But there were many years when men didn't even polish their shoes at all, hardly. And now I think it's just about as bad today.
Absolutely.
I think you look at them and they're,
I've probably polished my shoes 3 times in my life.
yeah, and it's awful because a man doesn't look presentable. I mean, if he's dressed and if his shoes aren't polished. At least
Well,
I don't think so.
when I met Norman, he had just come out of the service. He was in the Navy for 4 years. And so we went together quite a while, and then we got married.
But they never did.
But
They got so callous about their shoes. It was years and years people had dirty shoes when you looked at them.
well, we were never allowed to have dirty shoes. My dad would inspect everybody on Sunday morning whether they had shoes. They were all lined up, and he'd make sure that we
No,
all.
but I'm saying the trend was strict and people didn't.
That probably came from when he was in the military, right?
That's right.
Now, when was he in the military? Is this before you were born or while you were alive? Or?
Oh my word, no, very early. Oh, and another thing.
Did he?
In England, if you were in the militia or in some branch of the service where Dad was, in the medical branch, if you were in the service and you didn't want to be in anymore, if you had enough money, you could
buy your way out.
bought out. And his grandmother brought him out of this particular branch of the service.
Now, did he ever go off to war or something? Did he serve in any of the?
Yes, my
The
dad.
Well,
We never
Yes, he did.
really.
He served in the war there.
Yes, but we don't know to what extent or everything is vague at that point.
I think one time you told me it was the Boer War. Is that correct?
Yeah, but
That's right.
I don't know. There was the Crimea War, the Boer War.
I think it was
But
the Boer War.
I'd have to
Could
look
be
up the
several.
dates to see. You know,
The Boer War was 1880.
1880, and he would have been born in 65, wasn't he?
I don't know him really.
We'd have to look
You
those
think? But
things
you
up.
think he was born around 65, perhaps?
Well, we don't know because we were getting back to the Boer War, and I don't think he was.
I think it was in
I
war
think
later
before
than
his
before.
grandma.
Could have been. There were so many.
But I think because his grandmother died out, he was brought out at some point. But we can't tell you when.
I remember when we came to this country, my dad used to go and he used to take lessons all about the Constitution of the United States of
Right.
America.
Oh, well,
And that was something everyone
To get
now they don't even think about any of those. When you come in as an immigrant, you have
they
to.
should. Oh, they're very
Not now they don't.
Oh, Leila.
Immigration law is so lax right now.
Oh,
And
no,
I know
they're very
from living in Fort Lauderdale what they do,
very
you know, in Miami.
And it's
and that.
very difficult today,
Well,
too.
as I was saying, my dad went every day, but when he came home and he had learned it and passed all the tests and everything, he said, I want all of you children to sit down and thank God that we're in this country where you're going to be very happy and have a good life, all of us together. I never forgot that.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
Now, do you know?
And everyone in our family turned out good. We've never had anyone arrested, anyone who did anything. We had a good, clean, good family.
That's good. Let's hope we can keep that up.
Well, as far now,
Yeah.
there's only three of us left.
So don't you go out in any
Eight
wild
out of
parties
eight.
and get arrested or anything.
Yeah, she's the only one that might do bad.
Yeah, well, we've seen her out on her drunken binges on New Year's
Yeah.
Eve and things. So, what do you think about the 1980s being born much before the 1980s? Both of you are going on 90 years old,
I'm 80. I was 88 years old in July.
and Grandma will be 90 in November. So what do you think about the 1980s being from the 1890s?
Well, I was born in 1900.
So you're a 1900. So what do you think of it? How's the world changed since you were little?
Well, everything has changed since I was little. They didn't have the things that they have now. Say you could get a loaf of bread for 5 cents.
Right.
Oh, yeah, but what salary did you get?
Well, my dad earned
To pay it.
$30 a month. But the rents were very cheap,
Right.
and everything was cheap according to the times. Now, my gosh, look what you pay for a loaf of bread today.
$1.50, $2.
Yeah, and it's really...
Is that what
so
it is?
Yes, it
$1.45 at the Jewel for a loaf of Wonder Bread today.
Pardon me?
$1.45 today for a loaf of Wonder Bread.
One?
Yeah, it's really...
Oh, I can't
It's really something, as I say, you know, and you go to the butcher shop there and you get a soup bone.
Yeah.
And it'd be a big soup bone. You paid 10 cents for it, and it was just loaded with meat. You could slice and slice beef right
Yeah.
off it. And Mama used to just cook it, you know, in
Yeah.
the soup and all that, or fix it, and just slice, and then she would make pea soup or bean soup or something like that, you know, and or vegetable soup. But
Well, when you only make a little bit, you
well,
can't.
it wasn't a little bit when you have a family of 10, you know, with Mom and Dad.
No, I mean when you can't expect the salary.
Well, nowadays, you go get a soup bone, you get a little bone like that with a little bit of marrow in, and you know they're very expensive.
Yeah.
But if you knew the butcher years back, when I was first married, you could get, you know, things so cheap and everything. Even when we lived out in Mokina, we'd stop there And you get a soup bone, you get.
Well,
Well,
is
you
that
mean
the end of our,
No, you gotta tell me more about life.
come. We're bared our souls to you.
Well,
But of course, you have to know that times change.
of course, yeah.
And,
Well, since of refrigeration, you don't have to go shopping every day.
That's right. We used to have the refrigerator, just an ice box.
Ice box.
The iceman used to come. And I remember we were never allowed to follow the iceman to get a little piece of ice, you know, to put in your mouth.
Yeah.
And because Mama never chopped a piece off for us. She said it wasn't good for us. But I remember running after the ice wagon and somebody on the steps there handed me a little piece of ice. And I used to think that was so marvelous.
Yeah.
But we were never allowed to do that. And then they used to have an ice cream man come down the street, and you'd get an ice cream cone for a penny.
No.
A penny?
A penny ice cream cone for a penny.
Oh, I never heard
Well, maybe
that.
they didn't have them on the north side, but on the south side, and he used to come with a great big. It's an ice cream on there. It was just a truck.
A cart.
And it was open at the side, or you could go in there.
I bet
and
it
get
was full of germs, too.
And then you bring your bowl out, and
You
they
think
fill
it was full of
ice
germs?
cream. Will you hush up, please?
Oh,
You
I
and your
can't
germs,
just think
Grandma.
about Going
She's
to the
just
cart.
always been so full of germs. Everything is germs. But, you know, my dad used to say you have to have a peck of dirt before you die to be healthy. He always used to say that. And then you could bring a big bowl and they fill it with that beautiful homemade ice cream. It was just wonderful.
Where was this, Mama?
Well, where I lived, the 76 and Stewart.
Gee, I must have been sleeping all those
Well,
years.
honey, listen, you weren't there. You lived on the north side. But on the south side,
How
they
could I
always had.
ever be so...
I remember taking big
Forgetful.
bowls
Keep
out.
talking.
Big bowls out, Emily, and getting ice cream for the family. Of course, when you worked in at the at Borden's, you used to bring ice cream home half a gallon.
A quart.
Thing. Was it a quart?
We had
Every
a little
night.
dog when I worked for the ice cream company, and little dog Patch, and he liked ice cream. And I used to bring home a whole brick, a quart brick of ice cream, and we'd put it down on her little plate, and we would give her a whole quart of ice cream, because nobody else wanted it.
Well,
I'd say,
I remember
do you bring orange ice home? I'd say, oh, we've got orange ice tonight. Anybody want? No. Any ice cream? No. They didn't want it. So poor little Patch.
Well, I think that's
She
not too
used
bad.
to really work so hard to get rid of it all. And she had to give up midway because a quart of ice cream was
I know
too
I
much
used to
for
eat
her.
ice cream an awful lot when we used to bring them home, and Belle used to love it too. We both do to this day. I love ice cream, and so does Belle.
And now, I didn't know you worked for an ice cream place, Grandma.
Oh, yeah.
Borden's ice cream.
Was that when you were young, or how old were you, do you know?
That's when she was, before she
That
was
was
Before
before
you
I
were
left
married.
there to get
before
married.
you were married.
Okay. And then you worked at the hospital. Where's that?
Then I worked for the Red Cross.
Red
volunteer
Cross.
for the Red Cross. Then I worked downtown on Wabash Avenue for a paid salary for the Red Cross.
Then you worked at Elmhurst Hospital.
And I worked there for 2 years without any money with the Red Cross, you know.
Okay.
But then they discontinued. We couldn't work there anymore, they said, without them as volunteers. Because there were other places where we were wanted, I guess. They didn't want Elkins getting on.
So you were a volunteer for Elmhurst Hospital.
For 2 years.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. See, I didn't know all that.
As a Red Cross aide. And then I was appointed senior aide, not because of my age, but because I had to take charge of that. And that's what I worked at county hospital.
Well, do you have any closing words you'd like to say before I shut this off?
Well, Emily was the head of the Emily was the head of the personnel department, Emily, and
Were you
hospital.
at
Emily, you
at
were,
this point? Was it
still-
open?
I'm still recording everything. Got any last words?
you were the
We're
head
running
of
out of tape.
Oh, yes, but they know that.
We're running out of tape. You can say goodbye.
She was the head of the personnel department in Elmhurst Hospital for a long